I wanted to start the podcast by talking about what I believe is going to go down as the worst movie of 2024, the worst movie that came out in 2024. Andrew, can you guess the name of this movie?
It's probably like the Borderlands movie, right?
It's the Borderlands movie.
Yeah. You would have to strap me up like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lamb to go see this movie in the theaters. Like the fact that you paid money to see it is kind of crazy to me. But I guess if someone had to watch it, I'm glad it was you.
Someone had to watch. As we know, as we have agreed upon before on the podcast.
I won't watch any of the bad movies. I'll save my money and stay home and watch beautiful masterpieces, and you can go to the theater and watch Borderlands the movie.
And that's the sacrifice that I make for this podcast. I hope all of our listeners are aware of the lengths that I go for all of you. And this was truly one of the most horrendous experiences of my entire
Did you ever
life.
play the games?
I did. I grew up playing Borderlands.
I
I love the
played
Borderland games.
I played the first one with a friend, and then I played the second one with him too, and we got through most of it. And the other day they announced a fourth one. And I remember having fun at the time, but I think in retrospect, those games kind of suck and I would never play them again. I think the writing I remember not being very funny.
No.
And the games are all about running around basically like an empty wasteland, just shooting at things. I'm not really interested in playing those kinds of games anymore. I think the consensus is that they've aged badly and they're probably not worth playing. You might as well play Red Dead Redemption 2, which has beautiful voice acting, beautiful story, great gameplay, great graphics, great music, rather than Borderlands, which was fun at the time, again, because shooting guns can be kind of fun. You're playing with your friend, which is fun. But I think if I hadn't played it with my friend, I wouldn't want to play it by myself because, again, it's just kind of like this empty, desolate experience. I don't remember anything about the story for both games. Like, I don't
Neither do
remember
I.
anything. I just remember running around shooting, which is maybe indicative of how empty those games are. So I think already going into the movie, there's a problem.
There's a serious problem of there was never a good story to begin
Yeah.
with, which I
What
did
do you do with
play
it?
the first one and the second one. And I was never big into video games, but this is one of the few video
Yeah,
games.
that's probably like one out of maybe 10 games you played in your life.
Yeah. So I've played very few video games. So I am more aware of this than I am of other video games because I'm so
Yeah.
unaware of video games in general. And I remember loving the running around shooting part. I never
Yeah.
cared about the story because the story is
I don't
completely
remember anything.
unmemorable. I
I
don't
don't
remember
remember anything about
anything
it.
about it. And the fact that they decided to turn this into a movie truly just baffles me in a million different ways. And I can't think of the logic of the pitch that went into this. Maybe it's just because there's going to be a fourth Borderlands game and they needed to sell the game.
Those games have, I think, sold a lot. But again, I think in retrospect, people are kind of coming around to the fact that they're not very good. So again, like it is kind of like weird. I think people like Mad Max a lot, and Borderlands is a ripoff of Mad Max. And so it's like more Mad Max. But I'm assuming that the heart is not there.
No. A while ago, maybe like 6 or 8 months ago, we talked about that Coyote versus Acme movie and how it was created to be a tax write-off, even though supposedly it's actually a good film. This feels like the film that was built, written, and constructed merely to be a tax write-off. It does not feel like a film that was made for any other reasons. They just got a bunch of really big names: Jack Black, Kevin
It's the
Hart,
craziest
Kate
like
Blanchett.
cast.
The cast alone had to cost them over $100 million. I mean, the amount of money they spent on a bunch of people who clearly did not care at all, were very aware from the beginning that this movie was terrible and they were going to give a 0 out of 0 performance. They just all phoned it in. Every single person phoned it in, except, weirdly enough, for Kevin Hart, who gives a surprisingly okay performance. And I would not expect that from Kevin Hart. I mean, I guess I haven't seen him in a ton of stuff, but I never thought Kevin Hart's a great actor. I really want to see him in more stuff.
Yeah.
But he is the only one that even attempts to try to make something of this film. I mean, Jack Black only does a voice character, and even that is phoned in.
That's crazy.
Sounds like he just called in from his home and read like 6 lines.
Have you ever heard of the movie A Talking Cat
No.
is like this very shitty movie directed by this guy named David Dakota, who's a very infamous director. He's directed hundreds of movies, and they're mostly like schlocky, baity movies. And he's been doing it for decades. And he made this movie called A Talking Cat. And it has like question marks and exclamation parts at the end. And Eric Roberts, he plays the voice of the talking cat, but considering the quality of his audio, it's clear that he probably recorded it on his phone and sent them to someone.
Oh my God.
You can tell just from listening to it, he definitely recorded it on his computer or like a phone or something and sent it in.
It's honestly probably true. So little thought, time, and energy was put into this movie. I am personally offended that this movie exists. It is not even the bad where it's fun to watch. It's not even that type of bad where, oh, it's such poor filmmaking that we can laugh at it or laugh with it or feel some sort of authenticity. It is so inauthentic and attempt to cash grab. And what's amazing, and I am very happy about this because I'm giving this film all this shit and it deserves all this shit because it is evil, is an evil film created by evil people who believe that cinema is just this thing that can be sold as a commodity that can be bought and sold if you have the right price. If you have the right people in it, people are just going to go see it
Yeah.
because you have these stars in it. I went to this film on opening weekend. I went to it on a Friday
Yeah.
night. The weekend it opened, I was the only person in the theater.
Wow. That's beautiful. That kind of makes me happy.
This film is so hated and so little is cared about this film
Mhm.
that not even on an opening night did a single person want to go to this movie. And only two theaters were showing the movie, by the way. And there's six theaters in Reno. Only two of them even decided to show the movie at all. And one of them, I was the only person in the entire theater at like a 6 o'clock showing on a Friday.
Cool.
And that makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. And Eli Roth, the guy who directed it, he's a Zionist loser, so I'm happy that his film is failing.
Evil man producing evil films for evil corporations. And you know that.
I heard his Thanksgiving movie last year was decent.
Oh, really?
I heard it was okay. But anyway, yeah, what were we gonna say?
The reason people complain about the state of cinema is because of movies like this.
Yeah, it seems like kind of wasteful.
Millions and millions of dollars thrown away for a bunch of really famous actors to get a paycheck. And I'm not necessarily blaming any of them because there are
Yeah.
some actors in there that I legitimately like Jack Black and Jane Lynch. But it's very clear to me that no one gave a shit about this movie from the very beginning. I mean, no one even bothered to give any interest in the film, and that is the most disgusting thing about
Yeah,
this
it's pretty
movie.
bad. It's
I'm
cynical.
perfectly fine with movies that aren't quote unquote well made. And I think there are a lot of great movies that don't have perhaps the filmic qualities of some of the stuff that we have talked about on the podcast before. And I can accept that and I can love that. But what I cannot accept, what I refuse to accept, is people who are given millions and millions of dollars to make a movie and just no one gives a shit. That is evil. That is the most corrupt thing you can do in the world. I mean, to be
I don't know about the most corrupt thing, but I see where you're coming from. Like it's very cynical. But a lot of movies, I guess, have been made like that, right? But that's, I guess, the way the tides turn, you know?
I think why my frustration is so high is because as a filmmaker, as someone who's been working with filmmakers for 10 years, and these are all filmmakers who love what they do to death and spend every penny that they have. I mean, they all work other jobs. None of them work in the film industry. They all work as teachers or they're chemists or they're this or that or the other. And they spend every penny that they have to make a movie. They don't get any investment, they don't get any funding. It's just them and passion project with their friends. And they dedicate their lives to these films and no one ever sees them. No one ever hears about them
Sure,
and
yeah.
they die in the ether. It's a very frustrating place to be part of because, and I understand that's how cinema works sometimes. And I'm not saying all these movies are necessarily great films and deserve to be seen by millions of people, but it's frustrating that there are people out there who, for whatever reason, are given the opportunity to make art, given a lot of money to do it, and they throw that opportunity away. It's just very frustrating to see.
But like you said, the fact that you were the only one there, I think they're obviously being punished for that, right? In the fact that no one wants to go see
Yes.
it because it looks like shit and it is shit and no one wants to see it. So I think when movies are made like that, they are punished appropriately by audiences. Not every time, but they are occasionally. And of course, then you have movies that do come out that are great, but people don't go see them anyway for whatever reason that might be. They're unsuccessful, even though they're great and amazing. And but I feel you.